not every operator needs to get to the same skill level. So there is this balance of how much to train, how many people to train, and how to put it into your planning, into your operation. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And today's video is a bit of a combination. I've talked before already about the 5 levels of competence, and a recent video was on how many people do you need to train for each job. So that was the 3 people on one job, and every person needs at least 3 jobs to train on. That video, the 3, 1, 1, 3, and also the 5 levels of competence. But how do they fit together? And also, how do you build up your training system around it? Now, that is a point where, especially in an operation where you have multiple people working on more or less the same machines, you have multiple shifts, and also where you need backups and where you really need lines to continue, workplaces to continue. So basically any factory, any operational setting really benefits from this system, and it also shows you how to get a person through stages of competency for a specific role. Now first let's go over these 5 levels, get the different definitions, because I sort of adapted them from how I learned it. So you are probably used to slightly different terms, but this just, when I was working with it over the years and also with other training experts, it sort of moved towards this. So it's sort of an evolution. And those 5 competency levels, usually what I see online and in the textbooks is that level 1 is doesn't know the theory, level 2 is knows the theory, level 3 is can operate under standard conditions, 4 can operate under non-standard conditions, and 5 can train. Now you see that basically levels 3 to 5 sort of kept the same, but also levels 1 and 2, they really do mean something. One of the learnings I got from doesn't know the theory, knows the theory, and then can operate the equipment is that then in practice your learning and development specialists will focus really strongly on getting book knowledge into levels 1 and 2. The goal of level 1, that the person can be safe in the area and around the line. And it really doesn't go much further than that. So it's really that person knows where to walk, which things not to touch, what to do when you get an acid spill, or when you see something burning, or when you see a certain red light or hear sirens. Where are the fire extinguishers? Where is the exit? Telephone numbers for emergencies, stuff like that. So this person can be safely in the area of this machine without anyone guiding him. So if you can imagine that you have a larger production area with maybe a couple of production rooms and lines in it, and there is this pool of operators and your plant manager, but they are walking through this area on a regular basis. So maybe someone is working at the last machine in this area, doesn't really know any of the first stuff. You still want them to at least have a level of personal safety for the whole area where they come on, let's say, a weekly basis, but definitely a daily basis. So all the areas of the factory where a person would logically go and would be sort of alone, so not under direct supervision, you want them to be trained on direct personal safety. Often what we see in companies, and especially in factory type of companies, is that on your first day, or already before your first day, you get this instruction booklet. Here's the layout of the factory. There are the emergency exits. When the evacuation signal sounds, you have to go to this place or that place. The company rescue team, so the evacuation team, will tell you where to go. So stuff like that. And then it's sort of determined that this is enough to walk around the factory by yourself. I would much rather see, and luckily I almost always see it for production people, but not so much for different department production people or support department people, is that on your first day, a team leader, for instance, or any line manager takes you on a small tour of the facility where you'll be working. This will also include such basic things like where are your lockers, or how to key into the work time administration, but also have a list, and best if you formalize the list of where are the exits, where are the extinguishers, what to do, what is an emergency stop, how does it work, who to contact, stuff like that. Just go through a list so that any person can be left alone and can just walk by themselves through the area next to the lines. And that will give you a very strong basic safety thing. But you can also include all kinds of communication in there. Now, the second level is operational safety. With that, I mean, you can also, and this is already more on the line or the specific area, but you can safely operate the line. So basically on level 1, we'll usually say don't even really touch the line. On level 2, you can operate that line safely, which means you really know on that line where all the emergency stops are, what you can touch, what you should not touch, how it works, where are the danger points, pressure points, does it have high pressure air, or does it use hot steam or stuff like that somewhere. That's in there. But also, how can I safely start up, shut down this system? How can I safely end a production run when needed? That's all in there, but safety goes further. It also means here the operational safety, safe for the consumer. Now, in food and pharma, this is quite obvious and well known. So you have food safety, pharmacological safety, where you also need to know which parts of the process are a risk or a control point to eliminate or mitigate a risk to the consumer using the product here. So you also need to know how to make it safe how to make your product safe for others. So make the line safe for yourself and others around you, and make the product safe for your consumer. Now, the standard operations level, the third level, this is basically an operator who can run that line for a whole shift. So that includes changeovers of product, that includes startup, cleaning, stuff like that is all included. They can run this line and they can run it by themselves. Well, that is, they can fulfill this workplace by themselves. If you have a line that needs 3 operators, of course, they still need to be with the 3 of them. But this is someone who doesn't really need guidance, and who in basic conditions, so the normal, every day, every week type of stuff that you expect on this line, can just run it. You don't really need to have anyone else there anymore. And the difference between a level 3 and a level 4 is a level 4 operator can also handle all kinds of non-standard situations. And many breakdowns or specific rework cases, or maybe stuff like the electricity going off and then on again, and what to do with the line. Such type of things are in there. But do know, and that's why I said just a minute ago, in standard operations, you have your daily, weekly things. So any breakdown or typical sort of quality potential defect, something like that. So all of those not completely desired things that do happen at least on a weekly basis. So they're pretty common. You would expect a level 3 operator to at least be able to handle it. A level 4 operator knows why you need to take certain steps, what it does, what you are really doing. So sometimes people say, well, these are button pushers and these are operators who understand the line. I think it's a little bit too much of a shortcut, but okay, you get the feeling with it, right? So this is someone who can fully operate the line under basic conditions, but as soon as you've got new products or just strange things happening, or one breakdown led into another, and your whole line is just a mess, okay, then you need someone who really knows the line, and probably a mechanic as well. But someone who really knows the line, that is a competence level 4. So they can understand how to solve things. They know the process and the equipment and the materials well enough that they can be creative, that they can fix things that haven't happened before. So they have an understanding, and they can therefore do the rare occasions. Now then, a level 5 competency is someone who can train others. And now they build up logically, and I would also say that to be a trainer, you basically need two things. You need to be at least a basic level 4, because a level 4 operator, a level 4 person, they know why it is needed to operate in a certain way, why you have your operational steps laid out, and what happens when you deviate. So this type of information you of course need when you want to teach someone else how to operate the line. As soon as they come with a question, but why, or can't I do this or that, you also need to be able to explain why these steps are like they are and where the critical points are, but also to be able to explain. And training, teaching, it is a skill as well, but it's a skill and a mindset, and in total it is a competence to be able to convey your knowledge to other people, to really train them. So it's a bit of a personality thing together with knowledge. And what you therefore sometimes see, in fact I see it quite often, is that those operators who know the line best are still not trainers. You just have those people, and you probably also have them in your organization, who are so familiar with the lines, they know everything, but they don't know why they know it or how they know it. So they can't really explain what to do, they can just fix it. And I'm convinced that in their head they're sort of playing a whole list of things to check when you have a breakdown, and they really have for themselves a structured way of checking all kinds of things, but they cannot voice what they are thinking. So they cannot convey this info to other people. So therefore a level 5 is not per se better than a level 4, and definitely not per se a better operator, but this is someone who can train. That was actually quite an in-depth overview of what we have in the competency levels. But now what does this do for your operation? So how would you plan these people? How would you use this system when you're training new people, training people for new roles, and when you are planning in your operation, in your daily shifts? What you basically need is this level 3 standard operators. That is the core of your operation. They run the line. So generally what you need is that there will be problems coming up from time to time. So in any shift relatively close to the line, but not per se operating that line, you want to have at least one level 4 operator. And the standard operators you of course need for every workplace. And then a trainer, well, you need a trainer. And this is per workplace, per shift. Now, levels 1 and 2, how to say, do you need it or not? There are basically two things. Level 1, you don't use them in your planning, but it goes the other way around. Anyone walking by themselves in the area, doing things, so just working independently in that area, should be trained to level 1. So this is it's in the other way around story. They do not help you with production, but you need to make sure that when people have not been at least safety trained properly in an area, they have supervision. So anyone, even your logistics people who are bringing product to the line or taking away full pallets of production, they do not work the lines that are there. They do not operate those processes. So you might think that this doesn't have anything to do with them, but they are there. So you need to train people who come into that area, your quality techs as well. You expect them to just walk through the production area by themselves, do their thing, and especially those logistics people, quality people, they don't stay on the footpath. They go into a production area to take samples, to check a KPI, to refill bins, to do whatever. They are not visitors. They really work there. So everyone. Now the level 2, it's also not very useful, right? You cannot plan them for a full shift anyway. But this is a step in training. So when you are training someone to become a level 3 standard operator, so an operator that can handle all basic conditions, there is a step to at least being able to fully safely operate the line. Because someone who has a level 2, you can leave them alone with the line. They can operate it safely enough, so they do know all the basic processes, right? They can run the line for, let's say, 20 minutes or so, which also means that they can fill in for someone who is going on a break while the line continues. Just don't ask them to do, a sticker change or a product reshuffle or fix a breakdown. What they will do in these cases is probably shut down the process. Now, if you have processes that cannot be shut down, because then you ruin tons of product, don't put them on the line. But that's basically the idea, is a level 2 person, they can be safely with the line. You can leave them alone while they are really, let's say, in the line. So this is in training plus a couple of people. It would be nice, to relieve people during breaks. Now, the standard operator is needed. A non-standard, you need one per shift, but they do not need to be per se on the line. Now, if you have a bigger assembly area, or if you have a line with multiple operators there, the logical thing to aim for is to have one level 4 trained person and the rest at level 3. For people who are almost always on a workplace, do not accept 1 and 2, always push to a level 3 and get your, let's say, your daily operators, really the people running a process, get them to level 4. But if you combine this with what we've been talking about, so the 3 people on one workplace, 1 person on 3, then, and we will skip every person also should be able to do 3 workplaces for this, because it's not about that. But then in this logic, what you would like is everywhere where you basically have a 1 here, we sort of make it a 3, right? Especially if you're working in shifts. But here, there's also the thing about how urgent is it. Now, if you are running a continuous production, and especially in shifts, you always want at least 1 level 4 person for each of the processes you are running to be present. You can run a line, you can run a process with a standard trained, a basic conditions trained operator there and a level 4 operator on call, as long as you can also replace that one for troubleshooting. It's not the ideal situation. Ideally, as I just said, if you have one person should always be a level 4, that's ideal. And if you have multiple operators basically on the same process, the rest can be free. But that means that here you need to have at least 2 per shift plus extras. So you basically again get to this 3 per shift. So ideal, 3, basic need 2. For your standard operations, you need 3 people per workplace per shift, but here you can mix and match, right? So that is important. Know that you don't need to multiply this, you just need to fill them in. And for your trainers, because this is not a daily operation, you can go down to 2. Because is it really a problem that during a training someone exits? Yeah, it's not ideal, but it also doesn't stop your production. So aim to have at least 2 trainers for every workplace. This has an added benefit, which I really think you should always take into account when designing training programs, and which might, especially if you have a 5-shift system, be a reason to go for 3 or even 4 trainers again. And that is that you would like to assess, so sort of take the job exam, an assessment of your trainees by another trainer than the one who trained them. That's basic 4I principle, right? We know that from finance, but it's definitely also true in our operations and in our training, that you want the assessment to be done by someone else. And these, well, that is just not in the 3-to-1, 1-to-3, because these are not operational positions. These are your extras. This is your safety net. So they just stay with everyone and people who are in training and maybe a couple of shift leaders. But this is, the second level is optional. It's sort of an in-between level. So there you have it. When you go for a training system for workplaces, something which I highly recommend, use the 5-level system to also give yourself a language of how well trained, how competent is someone for this workplace. So do they have sort of a basic safety level? Can they actually be planned in, operate there and be planned in just on a daily basis? Can they really fix strange things? And do we have trainers to teach all those levels? Also important. Now, on another sort of planning and safety thing, and there we also come with why you need, the 3-3-2. When you do your production planning, your personnel planning, this is basically golden information, right? So what you would like to have in your personnel planning file is to have for all of the workplaces where you are planning also a small matrix of what's the competency level of all my employees on each of those workplaces. And if you do not have at least one level 4 trained person on each of your processes, and this can be, it's not ideal, but can be one person in your whole shift who just knows all the processes, and well, they work on one of them, but if someone's in a pinch, they can go over and help out there. And for each workplace, you need a dedicated level 3 operator. That is the minimum you need to run a shift, and especially during holiday season, but also as we have one basically now in the last sort of 2 years already, when people are absent due to COVID, but due to illness or due to something for which suddenly you miss quite a number of colleagues. When you do not have a level 4 trained person present in the shift, you should not be running that process, because you really are taking a big risk. If you do not have a dedicated level 3 person running each of your processes during a shift, you should definitely not be running that process. So that is also where you can look at it from the other side, right? We've been talking about how many people to train, but also when you are really short on staff, those are the bare minimum that you need to even run it. And otherwise, do not run that line. You will not be producing safely for your people and perhaps also for your customers. Now, that is a bit of a grim note to end on, but I hope that you took the levels and its effect on your planning and have some good ideas. Make sure that this gives a boost to your workplace learning, because in the end, that is what it's about, right? We want our workplaces, our processes to run smoothly. We don't want to overinvest too many resources in training everyone, because that's also a waste. And as soon as you are trained on many workplaces, you are almost certainly not getting enough experience, not enough daily experience on those workplaces to really keep up. So, make sure you're not training too much. You are wasting time and people and effort on training too much. but use this to get a logical step in training. And also, and maybe I'll do another video on that one day, this can be quite nicely linked to salary groups and to when are you a basic operator, an all-round operator, a shift lead, or a break relief specialist, or something like that. That really codifies how you can work with your workplaces, how much competence you have. So I hope that inspired you. Take a good look at your operations. If it did, if it got you any nice ideas, don't forget to hit that like button. And also let me know in the comments what other topics or which maybe consequences of this would you like me to also explain in a video. Be happy to indulge you on that one. For now, I wish you the best of luck with your learning journeys. And as always, enjoy that journey.